so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads. Welcome to a very special episode dedicated to none other than you, the P-heads themselves. I am your P-head enthusiast and hostess for the day, Alexa Hauser. I have been blessed to have the experience of helping out with Positive Heads social media for the better part of a year. And through my digital interactions, I began to realize, as did Brandon, that we have some incredible beings listening to this show who are taking the information that Brandon puts out through the podcast and using it to transform their lives and create wonderful things. You listeners are all a huge, huge part of the life force that propels this show forward through time and space, and we think it's time to bring forth some of you beautiful reflections and delve a little deeper into this collection of energy that is the Positive Head community. So as we shine the spotlight on our listeners, what we'll have them do is share their stories of how they attracted Positive Head into their life, the transformation it's facilitated for them, and what they're focused on creating now that they're in a more positive headspace. Also, this episode of the Positive Head podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Hello, all you positive heads. On this week's P-Head Posse episode, our guest is Positive Head listener Amby Matthews. Amby has been speaking and connecting with spirits in the afterlife since the age of 5. Her gift has facilitated a multitude of synchronistic events, including an amazing story about her daughter proclaiming to be the reincarnated soul of her grandmother. Amby hopes to bring healing to those who have lost their loved ones through sharing her own experience communicating with the spirit world. Hi, Amby. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having
me. Of course. I'm so excited that you reached out. It's really interesting because I'm not sure if it was Brandon reading your story. Was that what it was that you sent in?
Yeah.
In a past episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon, on a previous episode, if you're listening to this and you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you might remember Amby's story, which I would love for you to retell to us now about her daughter and her grandmother. Can you recount that for us?
Sure, no problem. So, my mother, to kind of give you a little bit of backstory, my mother didn't have a very good relationship with my grandmother. And my grandmother died when I was probably 10. And I'm 34 now, so she's been passed for quite some time. And my grandmother's never tried to connect with me or anything like that, which that's fine. And one day, my daughter, who was in the playroom, was just sitting there. She was 2 years old at the time. And she looks at me and she kind of looked around. And then she looked at me again and she said, "Why am I here?" And I thought she meant the playroom. And I was like, "You're in your house." And she's like, "No, why am I on Earth again?" So it took me back because I believe in reincarnation, but this is not something that I guess I've ever explained to my 2-year-old, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I went with it and I was like, "Okay, who were you the last time you were here?" And she said, she stopped and she thought about it and she said, "Nana's mommy." And knowing the relationship that my mother and my grandmother had, I was like, "Oh no." So I said, "Oh, okay, what?" And I was just asking her questions. And I said, "Well, what did Nana's mommy do when she was here last, or when you were here last time? What did you do?" Because it got to the point throughout the course of a year where it was no longer her, but it was my grandmother essentially. So I would say things like,
You mean no longer your daughter, and it was your grandmother?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she would tell my mother, who lives with me now currently, she would tell my mother, last time I was here, you weren't a good listener, and last time I was here, you would never take care of the dog, and like basically lecture my mom in this little 2 to 3 year old body. And so my mom is not very, she believes me that I can connect with, spirits, but she's terrified of it because I think she can too. She just won't admit it. So when this situation happened, she was very scared and very angry. So fast forward a couple of, my daughter was verifying what my grandmother did. We asked my daughter, when you were here last, what did you do? And she said something like, and she started playing with her hair. Well, my grandmother was a hairdresser. She said, and we don't talk about my grandmother because my mom didn't have a good relationship with her, so she doesn't even like her up. So she said, my mom said, and I didn't know this, but my mom said to her in front of me, what was your favorite thing to do when you were here last? And my daughter looked at her in the eyes and said, eat alone. And my mom started crying because I guess that was her favorite thing.
To eat alone.
And that's such a weird, that's like a weird thing. That's not like a normal, I like to go fishing. That's a very weird thing.
Yeah. Wow.
So one day my daughter looks at me and I could tell that it's very weird to have, in my experience, it's been very weird to have someone that recounts a past life because you can tell that they're not here. Like they kind of zone out. I don't know. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I could tell that she was doing that. And I said, what's going on? And she looked at me and she grabbed my face and put her head against my forehead. And she said, you were always my favorite. And that's something that my grandmother used to say to me all the time. So I started crying and I said, you were always my favorite. And I said, you promised me that no matter what lifetime we're in, we have to always be with each other. And she said, I promise. So then my mother at this point had had enough. She was pretty mad. And she said, if you were my mother last time, why were you so mean to me? Why did you come back? Why weren't you a good mother? Why did you do all of those awful things to me? And my daughter looked at her in the face and she said, I came back to tell you I'm sorry. And my mom started crying and I started crying. And my daughter has not spoken about it since. She's It was so intense, and it was such a beautiful moment to watch those two souls kind of mend fences in a way that it was amazing. And my daughter has no recollection to this day of any of that now.
So what is your, because and I've mentioned this a couple of times today because I was so excited about talking to you because, as I mentioned to you, like I was just thinking about this story, like a week ago. It just popped into my head. I remembered it so profoundly because it kind of blew my mind because it made me question a lot of like, well, so what's happening here? Like, is your perception of this that, your grandmother, right, is the reincarnated soul, sorry, your daughter is the reincarnated soul of your grandmother, or is it that like your grandmother was coming through her at the time, or what's your perception of the fact that your daughter has no recollection anymore? Is it just conditioning, like just being exposed to this world and just kind of getting into her own new story and new personality, or what's your perspective of that?
That's a good question, and I don't know. I still don't know the answer to that. I would like to think that she's the reincarnation of my grandmother. You know, I would like to think that just because I loved my grandmother. My mother didn't like her, but I loved her, and my grandmother and I had a very deep bond. But in the same aspect, I do see there at the time of this happening, there were characteristics of my mother that were so blatant that you couldn't deny it. Like my grandmother loved tap dancing, and my daughter was adamant that she was going to enroll in tap dance. So I put her in tap dance, and she looked at me and said, "My soul needs to dance." Like that's not something that people would say.
Wow.
But now it's not the same. I still love my daughter. I love her so much. And I do feel like her soul and my soul are like, if she wasn't my daughter, she would be someone else very close in my life. But I don't know if it's in my grandmother anymore. I do think that my grandmother came through to mend fences with my mother. I really do.
I mean, yeah, obviously. And that, like you said, it's such a beautiful, coming full circle. It's just such a beautiful, and I think that's why it was such an impactful story, even just hearing it, through Brandon or, secondhand, because it really, it brought so much, it's so soothing to hear that, like one soul would kind of journey that far or kind of go to those lengths to be in a position to actually give your mom, like the healing that she needed.
And that's what my mother and I were talking about this a couple months ago, actually. And, my mom is 73. She's older. So she grew up in the time frame where kids were to be seen and not heard. And, you went out and you picked a switch and you beat your child with it. So there's a lot of hurt there, and understandably so. I'm not minimizing her pain at all. But in the same aspect, like I said to her, was, if you think your mom doesn't love you, why would she come back? You know what I mean? Like, that is a love that I've never known. For someone to wait a whole lifetime just to come back to tell me that they love me and they're sorry, like that's an intense love, and you can't deny that. Maybe she wasn't a good mother in this lifetime, but in the same aspect, she did love you. So.
And isn't it kind of like poetic as well that, as you're saying, like your mom grew up in a time where children were to be seen and not heard, and then like her mom, who was like enforcing that pattern or whatever, then comes back through a child, and is like, because it brings a whole new, if she were to come back through someone else, maybe older, maybe your mother wouldn't have been receptive at all, and it's like kind of brings a whole innocence to it, just like an innocence to it, and like a new perspective of the way that your mom would look at, your grandmother. So, wow, that's wild. And so, but you've been, you said you've been communicating with spirits since you were young, yeah?
Yeah. When I was little, it was, I could hear spirits, and I didn't really know, and you know what, I take that back. I knew that they weren't living, but it was scary because I was a little kid. Yeah. And then, I could feel other people in the room with me, but when I would look around, no one would be there. So to me, that was terrifying. It was never, I've met people that it was comforting, and it was never comforting for me.
What were you hearing? And then like when you were just hearing them?
I would hear children playing. I would hear people asking me to help them.
Oh, wow.
I would hear, what would I hear? I would hear mostly people would try to tell me like how they died. And that was really intense for me because I didn't, as a small child, I didn't understand, why that was happening.
Yeah.
I get it now. And they show me how they died, and I can actually feel it now. And the reason for that is to just kind of like solidify who the living person I'm speaking with, of what happened. I'm really talking to your uncle. I'm really talking to your grandfather. You know what I mean? But as a child, I didn't understand that. And even into my teens and early 20s, I thought that there was something wrong with me. I thought I must be evil, or I must be wrong, because what I'm seeing is people dying.
Yeah.
So it was pretty intense. And then add on to the fact that my mother, God bless her, she did the best she could. but she told me it's in my head. I'm just imagining this. She thought I had schizophrenia at one point. So it was a lot of fear-based stuff for me.
Well, how did you come to the other side of that? Because that sounds like pretty intense. Like, how did you come to you seem like you have a different perspective of it now.
There's a couple of things that have happened that have solidified for me. Not making it up. It's not schizophrenia. It's not in my head. The first time was in high school, and I was at a party under a freeway passing. I grew up in San Diego, and I was watching this scene play out where this girl was being pulled over by a police officer. The police officer raped her and threw her body off the side of the freeway.
Wow.
And then I saw her father there a few years later standing on the freeway passing. So I'm watching this happen, and one of my friends comes up to me, and I'm with a group of people, and I learned to kind of just watch it happen and not say anything, because then people think you're a little cuckoo if you say stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I watching this happen, this person comes up to us and he's like, "You guys will see what happened on this freeway. This is the most crazy story." And I went, "Don't say another word."
Yeah.
And then I went to two of my girlfriends and I said, "You hear that I did not hear what happened, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Come over with me to the side to where we can't hear this." And I told them the story of what I was seeing. And then I said, "Okay, now go ahead and tell us what happened here." And it was the same story. It happened in the 50s.
Wow.
And there's a whole law that states that you can park under a well-lit area. And it's because of that girl.
Wow.
Her parents, that law. And I don't remember what her name is, but so then everybody in school was kind of like, "Holy shit, like she's not making this up."
Yeah. Wow.
So then fast forward, still afraid of it. Fast forward to meeting my husband, and he was like, "I really think this is a gift. I really think this is something that you shouldn't be afraid of and you should embrace and all of this." So I started working with a shaman, and she started helping me not be afraid and gave me different techniques. And then I started working with a medium, and she taught me a lot. And I started doing readings for people. And then it's always been for me, like it's kind of like how I describe it is you look at a light and then you look away and you can still see the outline of the light, but it's not really there.
Right. Yep.
That's how it is for me. And then I don't hear them anymore. I just see them now, or I can feel them. Mm-hmm. So then fast forward to 2 years ago now, my brother passed away, which is it's not a sad thing.
Okay.
My brother and I are 5 years apart.
Yeah.
He was not a nice person when he was living. He was a really nice person to family, but he was in a gang.
Wow.
He was a white supremacist. He was a drug addict. He had been in prison pretty much his whole life. He was not the best role model, right?
Right.
So him and I were not on speaking terms for a really long time. Well, he got murdered. And when he got murdered, the same night that he got murdered, my head was killing me. I had a migraine so bad that I almost threw up. Wow. And I don't get migraines like that.
Yeah.
I started getting dizzy. I started feeling like I was drunk. And I realized that my sister had called me that same time and told me that my brother just got murdered. And I realized he was showing me how he died. And I said, "I can't take this anymore. Make it stop." And it stopped.
Wow.
So a couple of weeks later, he wants me to talk to, he comes to me and he tells me he wants me to connect to my sister. He wants me to connect to my nieces. He wants me to connect to his girlfriend. Like, he was very close to all of these people, and I had no relationship with him. So there's no way I could have known different things that he did.
Right.
The one that blows my mind, that really made it like I'm not making this up, was I was talking to his girlfriend on the phone, and she was moving out of her house to her mother's house, which was Northern California, because the people that had murdered him were now trying to find her.
My gosh.
So it was this intense situation. So I said, I told her, Aaron is showing me, like, he's showing me himself flexing, and then he's showing me a box, and he's putting the box underneath the bed. He wants you to go look underneath the bed that you're sleeping in. And she said, Amby, that doesn't make any sense because this is my mom's house. I don't have anything here, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I get that, but just bear with me. Just go look under the bed. And under the bed was a box with a picture of him flexing on it.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, there's absolutely no way that I could be that specific and know what was happening. So ever since when my guides tell me to do something, or that little voice in my head, or my brother comes to visit me, I don't even question it. I just do it because I know, like, I may not be able to see why I'm doing this, but there's a reason why I'm doing this. So. Right.
And so, wow. So is your brother like someone that comes to you a lot now? Like, do you have a relationship?
Yeah, my brother and I are closer now than we were when he was living, which is really funny. He visits me a lot, and sometimes we just chat, and he wants me to write a book, and I'm really fighting it tooth and nail at this point. So we'll see how that goes.
What does he want you to write a book about? About your experience or your gift?
Yeah. So I've been told by a medium that our roles in this, my brother and I, he was supposed to be the teacher and I was supposed to be the student. And through different life activities, that did not happen. And so he's trying to fulfill that by showing me different things. And one day I was meditating and I asked my brother, I said, Aaron, if you're supposed to be the teacher, then what are you supposed to teach me? And this outline of a book came to me in probably 5 minutes. It was 7 things that he wanted to teach me. And it was forgiveness. It was not to judge others too quickly. What was the other one? There was a lot more, and I have it written down somewhere, but I don't know where it is right now. I'm in the middle of a move.
Yeah.
But yeah, it came to me really quickly. So I'm working on it, but I'm not making a book about it. But there are different lessons that I'm supposed to learn, and I understand that, and I'm open to him teaching me that. I guess it's hard for me to have a different view of him because I knew the person that he was,
Of course, yeah.
But in the same aspect, my sister and him were very close, and she misses him so much, So he was a very protective person, and when he loved somebody, he loved them unconditionally. So, that's a good quality of him.
Yeah. And so does your sister are you like communicating with, are you like passing on things to your sister, or can your sister communicate with him, or does anyone else in your family have, intuitive gifts, or is it you
my daughter
and your daughter?
My daughter definitely does, but she's working out her own fears. I'm trying to help her not be afraid of it, but she still is. She's afraid of it, and I think that's just the path that she needs to go down, because I've tried to help her, and she's a little hard-headed. So,
as children are.
So
she's. Do you mean like after, besides the whole grandmother thing, like there's been other things happening with her?
Oh yeah, she will tell me that sometimes the kids will come into her room at night and wake her up, and it makes her scared. When probably about a year ago, she told me that there was a woman in her room, and we asked the woman to leave, and she followed the woman out the door. Like she was talking to somebody.
Yeah.
Just different things like that. So I'm really trying to help her. I personally feel like I have a very weird view of negativity and negative energy. And I feel like it doesn't make any sense to me that there are evil entities. The reason it doesn't make any sense to me is because once you die, we're positive light, right? We're positive energy.
Right.
So how can there be evil spirits? How can there be these demonic things? And I truly feel like what you attract, what you're afraid of, you're going to attract. So for me,
Yeah.
I don't want to teach my daughter to be afraid of the spirits. I don't want her to learn how to protect herself from spirits. You know what I mean? Because I know how to do that, but
Yeah.
why teach her that? Because then she's just going to be more afraid of it, and it's just going to be coming from a fear-based teaching than a love-based teaching. So
Definitely.
I tried to teach her, like, if someone is in your room, whether they're living or they're past, you need to ask them to leave if you don't want them there. And if they don't listen to you, then you need to come get mommy. And that's with anybody,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Physical or non-physical.
exactly.
Yeah.
Physical or non-physical. If you don't like somebody, ask them to leave. Like, you need to
Yeah.
set boundaries for yourself. And I think that that's something I need to work on as well. You know, I personally have such an easy time of being like, yeah, no problem, I'll do that. And in my head, I'm like, I really don't want to do that. So boundaries are a
Right.
really good lesson. And I'm really glad that she's here to help me learn that lesson too.
Wow, isn't that cool how it's all, again, it's coming full circle. It's like, you know, you're learning through teaching her. And also it sounds like she's kind of going through the exact same thing that you were going through when you were, you know, the same type of fear, the same type of not understanding. And it's so awesome that, you know, she has someone there that understands. It's like, wow. So it's have you ever had, I mean, do spirits just come to you randomly?
Yeah.
And they do like all the time, like all the time, like they just show up and are you just like, kind of like, are you listening to them? Are you helping them? Are you ignoring them? Because I'm so interested, because it's funny. I mean, of course, like what we haven't experienced is the thing we always want to experience most. And it's like, I am so fascinated by this. I like mediums and like I'm intuitive, but I'm, not in that way. I've never had an experience with the spirit. You know what I mean? So how does that work? Like, how does that work with your how does that work with your life? Is it something where they're like, do you get what I'm saying? How do you manage them?
Sometimes it's all of the above. So sometimes I will ignore them, but what I have found that is if you ignore them, they will keep coming back, right? It's like living people. Nobody likes to be ignored. Somebody made the analogy to me, with the shaman that I was working with made the analogy to me that if you are walking through the desert for 10 days and you see somebody with water and food, are you going to let them out of your sight? No way.
Right.
And it really has made me have more empathy for them as opposed to being afraid of them.
Well, and
go ahead.
What are they wanting from you?
So,
like, what do they want?
It's different things. Sometimes they just want to be noticed, and sometimes they want like a full message delivered. And so I've kind of made a deal with them in the aspect of, if you want me to deliver a message, I have no problem doing that. However, you need to bring the living relative or living person that you want me to give the message to me, because I can't go and find them for you, because I've tried that. That's exhausting, because I have 3 children and a job, and I just can't do that. So.
And do they bring them to you? Like, has that happened?
No, it hasn't happened yet. When I was giving readings, giving readings rather pretty frequently. And those were it was just, I know this person that has a lost loved one that could connect to. So it was coming pretty frequently. But now, it's more of along the lines of, like, my neighbor, for example, had a spirit in her house. So she wanted me to come over, and it was a little boy that was trying to play with her son. So it wasn't anything crazy. So I don't know, did that spirit find me? You know what I mean? Like, it's unclear. But I work at a chiropractic office. And an interesting thing, it's not funny, but what happened was, this person was sitting there, and I take all the patients' intake information when they first come in, right? So I'm talking to her and I'm asking her, how she's feeling and things like that. And she started crying. And I was like, are you okay? Are you in pain? And she's like, no, my father just passed away last night. And I'm just really upset about it. And I look over and he's sitting next to her. I can see him, and I'm going, well, it's not in my head, I'm thinking this is not appropriate to explain to her, like, I'm medium, your dad's right here. So I literally just put my hand on her shoulder and I said, well, I really feel like he's always with you, because technically that I'm not, but again, it's one of those times where I need to, it's not my place to say anything. It's just, I'm just here to kind of observe, I guess.
Right. Well, I was gonna ask, what do you think, your, if you're not so you're not really working with it right now, like you were saying, you were giving readings before, but you're not doing that now. So what do you think your, I guess, purpose is with it? I've tried to soul search for this question for a while, and right now I just don't know. It develops in different ways, and it comes and it goes. Right now, I just know things, and I guess I'm starting to be more empathic, because I can feel when people are sad, and I can feel when they need someone. And I use that right now with my friends. I'll just sit here and think, oh my gosh, my friend really needs to talk. And I'll call her and I'll be like, I was told to call you because I feel like you're really depressed and you need to talk to somebody. And she actually was like, you should get paid for this gift. And I was like, no. It doesn't feel, when I was giving readings to people, it didn't feel right to me to take money and be like, yeah, Uncle Joe says hi, and they're sobbing on the phone because they miss this person. So, I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about anybody. Like, there's a lot of closure there, and it's a really great gift. And if that's how you make your money, there's no judgment there at all. I just didn't feel like it was my calling. Maybe it'll go into something else, but right now I just feel like my calling is to be the best mom I can be. And maybe my calling is to help my daughter develop her gift so she can do something amazing with it, Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's an interesting perspective of it. Well, right before we started recording, because I was telling you I was so happy you reached out, because I had literally just been thinking about this story, and I had loved this story when I heard it, because as I explained earlier, it just brought so much kind of healing to me in a way. And you were explaining, I said, I don't know what made you reach out, and you said that what did you say? So sometimes I'm very in tune with my guides, in the aspect of, not as in tune as some other people. Like, some other people know their names and what they look like and things like that. I just know when my guides are around and like the message they want me to deliver or whatever. And I woke up this morning and I was listening to your show, and I listen to Positive Heads almost every day. And I was listening to the one you were interviewing someone with, and at the end of it, you always say, if you have a story to tell, email. And at that moment, my guide said, you need to email her your story. And so I just did it. Now, to keep in mind, so about when this first happened, the very first episode you aired of this, I said, I got that feeling, you need to email her. And my little voice in my head was like, no, nobody's going to listen to your story. It's not interesting. Ignored it. And then today I was like, no, I'm just gonna listen. So yeah, what's so funny is I was just doing another interview right before this, and that person said the exact, and who is so interesting as well, said the exact same thing. Oh, well, like I always had that voice in my head that says, like, no, it's so every single person, I think we have this voice in our head that's like, oh, who would want to listen to you? And it's like, meanwhile, we're like all so interesting and have so many amazing stories to tell. And Well, the reason I brought that up again is because I'm curious why you think that you were pushed to, email to share your story. Besides the fact that, like I said, we all have such interesting stories. Like, why do you think that your guides wanted you to share this story? Is it, to bring healing, to make people feel not alone? Like,
I think to let people know that this is not it. This, what you see, what you feel, what you hear right now, this is not it. This is just one part of it. And there is something else that happens after we die. We're not alone. There are lots of entities around us trying to help us all the time. We just have to listen to them. And we have to be brave enough to listen to that little voice that tells us, yeah, go for it. Don't be scared. But the other thing, and that came through for me today, and it's been on my mind for a couple of days now, but it really came through today, was a lot of the time when you have people around you that are negative, coworkers or people that you run into just out in the community, whatever the case may be, and you lower your vibration to match theirs, that's not benefiting either one of you. So I love Abraham Hicks. And
so do I so much.
And there was something that they said once that said, you can't be sick enough to heal a sick person. You can't be sad enough to make a sad person happy, right? Yes. So if you're trying to make someone happy, but you lower your vibration to match theirs, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't know who is supposed to receive this message, but whoever it is, the message is you have to keep an elevated vibration in order to make other people match your vibration, to reach your positive head.
Yes. I mean, I think we all, that touches me. I'm sure that touches everyone listening, because that's a lesson I've been learning recently. I think that a lot of us who, we're so sensitive and we're so kind of, we have things and people in our life that I think, for me, like when I started getting into all this, the number one thing that scared me was like, oh my God, am I going to have to lose everyone in my life? Like that thought just keeps coming through. Like, am I going to have to say goodbye to everybody that I love? Like, because they're not into this, because they're not aware of this. And so I think that for a lot of people makes us kind of be like, oh, well, I'll just kind of hang down here where they are, thinking that actually will keep us safe or something. But really it starts to, if you're paying attention, you'll realize it really starts to deteriorate even those relationships, because you become aware that you're keeping yourself small because you're afraid to lose so-and-so. And in actuality, Abraham talks about this all the time, which has brought soothing to me, which is speaking to exactly what you're saying is, 9 times out of 10, if you have a relationship with someone that you love, it's like if you raise your vibration, they will elevate to meet you 9 times out of 10. When really, like, we keep having, and a lot of people keep talking about, like, you need to cut all these people from your life. Like, you need to just focus on the, you just need to get positive and then cut all the toxic people out of your life. And it's like, from my perspective, what I've been experiencing is that a lot of the people in my life, they weren't toxic. I was kind of toxic in my thinking, and they were reflecting it back to me. And now that I've gotten positive, they become very positive. And the more that I focus on myself, even though it's scary sometimes, whenever I'm like feeling amazing and feeling independent and not worried about them, they are like happier than ever. And our relationships are better than ever. So yeah, like whatever, the message you brought through is so pertinent, I think, and it's something that we all really need to play around with and learn and not be scared of.
I agree with you 100%. And I think of like my husband. My husband is one of the most supportive people that I've ever met in my life. And when I met him, he, I look at his mother and it's the same way. Like, it's always half his glass empty type thinking. And that's fine if that's, hey man, if that's what makes you happy, then go for it. But I used to say to him, not so much anymore because he's so much different now, but I used to say to him when he would get mad, like nobody put the paper towel rolls on the paper towel, right? I would say, wow, how awesome is your life that this is what you're upset about? Like there are people out there worried about having a home and worried about having food on the table, and you get to be upset about paper towels. Like that's amazing. He would kind of be like, shut up and walk away. But it would bring him back to this point of, you're right, I'm being ridiculous. And now he does it to me when I'm feeling upset about something that is ridiculous. You know, it's nice to have that person, whether it's, you know, my kids do the same thing. My kids will be, don't say it if you don't want it to happen, Mom. You're going to attract it. So it's the thing. It's nice. It's really nice to have that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's no, I just love that you just brought that through, because I'm sure you're tapping on something in the collective that we're all kind of, it's kind of the one thing that holds people back that really doesn't need to, you know? Yeah. So as she said, you know, you can't get sick enough to help sick people. You can't get poor enough to help poor people. The best thing that we can do is raise our own vibration, and that will raise the vibration of everyone around us and of the planet, and will push us further into this awesome new Earth that we're creating, apparently. Well, Amby, this is awesome. So great to talk to you. You definitely brought, you know, some soothing to me, and I'm sure to a lot of people listening. Is there anything else you want to share, or, you know, anything else to leave the listeners with before we go?
Nope, I just forgot it, so I guess I'm not supposed to share it.
Oh, yes, that's the way it works, right?
Yeah, but thank you so much. It was so nice to talk to you.
It was so nice to talk to you too. Have an amazing weekend.
You do the same. Bye.
Okay, bye. That's it for this week's episode. If you're a listener with a story to share and are interested in being featured on a future episode of this special series, you can email me at alexa@positivehead.com. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear Brandon constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration, and if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place we know of to do it. Period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Otherwise, tune in next Friday for another P-Head Posse episode. And until then, as Brandon always says, journey well.